So our next reader is Meg Freitag. Let's see what I wrote about Meg. Meg Freitag's poems are the kind of poems I want to give people who say they don't like or get poetry. Not because her poems are necessarily one-size-fits-all accessible. So many of them retain their sense of mystery and multiplicities of meaning, but because they are built with such remarkable and undeniable beauty and rigor, I can't imagine anyone coming away from them without being converted. They fight to preserve a space to wander and wonder, a space where movement is its own reward. Her poems live between intimacy and devastation, and even after having had the great fortune to be reading her work for years, I continue to marvel that each time I read one of her poems, a feeling wells and fills me and then recedes. A flare sent up into the night sky, illuminating briefly a portion of dark to show me something new. Meg Freitag.
Kind of hard to follow that introduction. This first poem that, first of all, I want to thank Vincent for putting this together, and Malvern for hosting, and then all of you for coming out to this reading tonight. This first poem that I'm going to read is a little bit longer. It's about 4.5 pages, and it's actually a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I was approached by a website that collects artistic interpretations of Bible passages, and they wanted me to write a poem in response to a Bible passage, and I was a little intimidated at first because I was like, oh gosh, I don't really know if that's my thing. But then the poem ended up being 4.5 pages, so apparently I had a little more to say than I initially thought I did. This is actually in reaction to the Noah's Ark story in Genesis, and it's called "Once to Speak of His Brightness." 1. How do you let your children go like that, every which way into the world, like chess pieces set to a terrible music? How do you just stand there and watch them pedal their bikes away from you, downhill at breakneck speeds? Tiny, soft-shelled crabs, so numerous as to seem like a single disorganized organism, clamoring all over the tops of each other, trying to get to the best air. How do you let them bury each other in the black swathe of the sea? The first time I rode in an airplane, I felt as if I was somehow getting closer to you. I felt my prayers for my friend Joanna, who had been hit by a car and broken her back, would be louder in your ear. But the higher we went, the farther I realized you were. It didn't even occur to me then that she might die, or to worry about her never being able to walk again. I just wanted her to be well enough to accompany me to the water park. I wanted to go to her house and play Operation. She was the only person I knew who still had all the bones and organs that went to the game. That summer, I listened to the Jewel CD on repeat, singing along alone in the sunroom of my grandparents' Pensacola house. Picture a child, small for her age, drenched in a large new vibrato. Picture the shivering lizards adhered to the window screens. Picture Hal Green. And the rain that came each evening, roaring sheets of percussive music. I thought then of the Old Testament God, so notoriously short-tempered, still figuring himself out. For the longest time, I couldn't reconcile him with you. You, who I spoke to at night when I was afraid I might do something to accidentally conjure the devil and needed reassurance. You, with the dove light that trailed behind you everywhere you went. How do the two of you decide when it's time to reach down, pick someone up by the scruff of his neck? The clouds turn to brick red scabs as the sun sinks. The streetlights flash on like minnows. I watched the movie My Girl. It felt like a hole had been punched through the world when the boy was stung to death by bees as he tried to retrieve the mood ring his best friend had dropped in the woods. I felt myself projected into the body of the girl who loved him when she finally lost it at his funeral because he wasn't wearing his glasses. 2. And in real life, there was Snowflake. They called him that in 7th grade because of how pale he was. His birch white hair, his see-through eyelashes, the veins in his arms like radio wires. I swear they did. But when I saw him again years later, he didn't know what I was talking about. You're confusing me with somebody else, he said, and I never mentioned it again. Something happened to him in Afghanistan. Orange dust rose around him, so dense I couldn't see him through it whenever he tried to talk to me about his time there. What does one do when they are suddenly void of all desire? Like they couldn't grab hold of a want if their life depended on it. I have been before to this place, but have always made it back in time. Desire, this bright spot we carry by its handle, like a lantern as we move forward. Without it, we are blind as animals that live their entire lives underground, living the small way, with their mouths full of dirt. Long ago, the earth was covered in a fine white fur. Animals slept out in the open and ate grains from the palms of our hands. You learned the hard way that something white won't stay clean for long. The bacchanalian stench became so thick, we had to line our nostrils with camphor oil just to sleep at night. You took down everyone's number, said, "I will be back for you later." No one believed you. That's how hollow the sounds of earth had become. But you showed them. I think Snowflake killed people, and he was violent with me once. I didn't speak a word to him in the 3 years leading up to his death, and yet I still remember him as mostly a gentle person. A boy with crooked wired glasses and filthy sneakers who had panic attacks every time he thought about what would happen once the landfills filled up. A summer morning scored by garish, unkind light. Blue jays scattered from the yard like marbles every which way as I crossed to the compost. I know it's in their best interest, but I wish you'd not taught the animals to fear us. Everything is always getting smaller as it moves away. Do you see me, how alive I am? Growing old as a saint down here in my little skiff. Caught between a desire to be loved, deeply, permanently, and a desire to be weightless. A foil wrapper in the soup-warm sea, gleaming like a beacon every now and again when the light strikes just right. Thank you guys. I know that was a little long. I'm going to read 2 more that are a lot shorter than that one. This next one that I'm going to read is actually somewhat new. I kind of pieced together some different poetry notes that I'd written yesterday, and it doesn't have a title yet. So if anyone has any suggestions for what you think a good title would be, you can let me know after, or message me on Facebook. I wanted to just pretend I was a cat that belonged to him. I microwaved the coffee from yesterday, and he scoops at the cat like it's a bag of tiny potatoes, walks around the house, rocking it softly. He whispers something I can't hear from the kitchen, keeps whispering. December is always the hardest month. Small and hard white, lights in every other tree, a family of squirrels playing house frantically in the bedroom wall. In my dreams, I am a bag of tiny potatoes. I can't call anyone back. Sorry, I no longer have any arms. All I can do is be scooped up like a cat and whispered to. Except last night, when I dreamed I was living on a different planet where things aged very fast. When I tried to touch someone's necklace that they'd left sitting on a table, it turned gray and collapsed beneath my fingertips, like a vampire left out in the sun. I spent what felt like a dream forever, searching for a bed new enough that I could sleep in it for a few hours without waking up in a heap of ash. My friend and I, when we were young, had this game we called Horse, Bird, Muffin. It was simple. Everyone we came across, we had to say how much like a horse they were, how much like a bird, how much like a muffin. I was always 100% muffin, no matter what I did. And my friend was a horse bird, even split. There was a transcendent quality to her, like she was living a few seconds ahead of me in time. These kinds of relationships, you'll eventually learn, are doomed. As a muffin, I've never been known for my ambition. I usually just want things to be over already. For example, if I could have one superpower, it would be the ability to slip into a non-fatal coma whenever I want to. My brain is just so high and loud. If I ever set it down for even just a moment, it would break every single last window inside you. But I'm trying now to stuff a 10-year plan into a 5-year bag. My muscles are bulging all day long, smooth as belugas, and singing. Singing for all they gave up to get here. Here at the doorstep of okayness, ringing the little bell. Hearing the chime waterfall around inside okay's small cement house, like a feeling so brief and confusing that no one's named it yet. A feeling that is really several feelings. But tell me, have you ever known anyone who lived their whole life in just one world? And this last one that I'm going to read. This is also a little different from a lot of the poems that I've been writing recently. This one is called Easter Poem. Some days I wake up to a world that feels as though it's lost all meaning in the night. 52 dead, mostly women and children, in a country we somehow care less about, except sometimes we still care about the children. I am trying to think of it now, and my mind obscures the image. I see it through a haze of smoke, or like it's just kids playing around, falling over, kids being kids. Pre-language filled with a similar translucent milk, we are all the same. But as we grow up and put on our different shoes, sing our different songs, and in different manners of singing, and eat our different foods, and differently, some of us with our hands, others from tips of miniature pitchforks, or like me this morning, peeling back a layer of wax paper to access corn tortilla folded around some scrambled eggs. We become increasingly less human to each other. We keep our strange calendars, sleep and wake at bizarre times. We are always going around loving things that don't make sense, even to ourselves. Last night, as terrible things were happening, I had 2 dreams. In the first, I gave birth to a tiny, creepy baby. Eyeless and membranous, pink like a rodent. Everyone kept telling me what a beautiful child it was, how blessed. I was so stressed out because of how broke I am and how it didn't seem to have a father. I hated it. But what can you do? I was its mother. I fed it and I looked around an unfamiliar house for things to mother it with. In the second dream, I was having a dinner party for many people. I cracked an egg and the pan filled with blood, mixing the ingredients already in the pan. Blood bubbled over onto the floor. I couldn't cry hard enough. I lay down on the floor and I screamed and screamed until I was gagging on the sound. No one came to help me. And meanwhile, it was already the following evening somewhere in a distant city. Suddenly, 52 people dead. 52 people, I read to myself on the blue screen I am squinting at, my glasses still on the bedside table. 52 people, it says, mostly human.